Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice little 7-game NBA slate for you. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really does help the channel a lot. So we do have a pretty interesting injury report. It's actually not that bad today, which is nice. We've had some crazy slates with injuries last week or so, and hopefully they settle down a little bit. Obviously, as the season's rounding out, we're going to get teams that are going to be playing a little bit different, but overall, this is a pretty good slate, I think. I do expect the cash line for today to be in the 288 to 303 range, so do keep that in mind when creating your lineups. So you're going to need, a 6x from a lot of guys probably today to pay off. Looking at that, let's get into this injury report for the Nets. Walker and Sharp are questionable. Cam Thomas, Simmons, and Cam Johnson are out. For the Pistons, Grimes is out. For the Timberwolves, Karl Anthony Towns is out. For the Pacers, Matherian and McDermott are out. For the Heat, Hero, Love, and Richardson are out. For the Mavericks, they are good to go. For the Raptors, Abaji is questionable, and then Barnes, Podol, and Brown Jr. are out. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name too bad. Looking at the Suns, Booker and Okogie are out. For the Celtics, Brown is questionable. For the Bulls, Levine and Williams are out. For the Spurs, Wimby is out. And for the Nuggets, Warriors, and Kings, they are at full strength. So we definitely have an interesting slate from that perspective, but not too many injuries. We do have a couple probable tags like Doncic and stuff, but overall, it's actually a pretty decent slate from this perspective. So we have some good opportunity here. But obviously, with Wimby out, that's going to open up some guys for the Spurs. So let's go and get into our top plays. Now, I don't really have a core play at this point. I will point out that there's several guys that I consider as a core play, and I'll point those out as I go. The catch is here is that they're just a little bit more risky than I typically like to have as a core play, and so that's why I didn't include them as one. But I'll explain that as I go. We're going to start at the top when it comes to the prices, and we're just going to start with Sabonis here. Now, Sabonis has been fantastic as of late, and the last time versus San Antonio, he scored 57 fantasy points. He doesn't have a whole lot of room because of his price being at $10,600, but he is in a really safe place, and he does have some nice potential here. And if you can find a lot of value, which there is quite a bit of value on the slate, then he's definitely somebody you can pay up for. He's probably my favorite pay up player on this slate altogether. Looking at De'Aaron Fox, he also has a very favorable matchup here, and he's back at full strength, and his price is actually kind of under what I expected it to be. I thought he was going to jump over 9,000 soon, back up over 9,000 as he's been that most of the season, but he's still 8,500. But this favorable matchup really gives him a lot of utility, and he's done great the last couple games, getting himself going again now that he's back at full strength. He is very close to being a core play for me, and so do keep that in mind, but he is a guy that I really do like a lot today in a very plus matchup. Looking at Rudy Gobert, he gets a nice boost today because of Towns being out. Now, he's not a must play because Indiana does, have some guys that can play good defense on the big guys, and it might be more of a shooting game, but I do think he's going to have a lot of opportunity in this one to get in the mid 30s or even the low 40s in minutes, and if that's the case, then he will have the opportunity to have a good game here. He definitely has a little bit lower floor than I like, but he's got a good ceiling on this game. Now we're going to get into the Spurs here with Vassell. Now Vassell should be the top dog for the team with Wemby out, and he's been fantastic as of late. He's been the 35 fantasy points that he needs is definitely in play, though he does carry a little bit of risk. The matchup is really good, and he has nice upside with Wemby out, and so I definitely think he's a viable option. He was very close to being a core play for me. Looking at Nurkic for the Suns, now he gets more involved when one of the big three are out, and with Booker out today, he's going to get some more utility. He's been very good in the last and the last 5 games with somebody, whether it be Beal or Booker being out. And so I look for that to continue. His price has come up a little bit, but he's definitely a viable player on the slate just as much. Looking at Royce O'Neal for the Suns as well. Now he gets a boost whenever one of the big three is out as well. However, his boost is typically a little bit bigger whenever Beal is out versus Booker, but he still has some good upside here. And he's had a really solid game against Toronto this season, and he's been better at home throughout the season. Obviously, he has been playing more games lately, and those have happened to be at home where his minutes have been up because of the injuries to other players. So he definitely carries some risk, but he's definitely a decent play on this one. Trey Jones is in play for the Spurs. Now, he's probably the guy on the Spurs that I'm going to mention that I probably dislike the most. just because he's been very high risk, high reward lately. He does get a boost with Wimby out, but his inconsistency lately has really been a bit of a concern. He was doing really good for a while, but then he's kind of run into where he's not shooting many shots and not even getting that many assists and stuff. So in some games, so I do think he's got some upside here with more usage to go around, but he definitely carries a little bit more risk. And his, where he's where I look at him to get in this game is around 24 fantasy points, and that's a little bit under his price range today. Looking at Sochan, let's see, Sochan for, gosh, I can't type here, for the Spurs. Now, he's a guy that I really thought about making a core play. It's really hard to dislike him, getting over 30 minutes in 6 of the last 7 games, and in 5 of the 6 of those games, he's gotten over 30 minutes. He's been well over the fantasy points necessary. There's not, he has some low floor games in there where he plays limited minutes, but with Wemby out, he should get plenty of opportunity here. And Sacramento is a team that the Spurs have a good chance to have a really solid game against, and so he's definitely an interesting play today. Same kind of goes for Keldon Johnson. He was very close to me a core play as well. He gets a nice boost whenever Wemby is out, and he's been playing pretty well for most of the season. A little bit inconsistent, but and he obviously does have a low floor when he doesn't get the minutes. But this game, he should definitely get a big boost. He has been coming off the bench most of the season, but he may end up getting back in the starting lineup today. It's hard to say at this point. But he does have a lot of upside for this matchup and has some strong potential with the discounted price. Zach Collins is an interesting play as well. If he does move in the starting lineup today, then he'll definitely be somebody that I would be saying is a core play. He's very, very, very close to being a core play. In fact, if we look throughout the season, he's had 27 starts this season. He's had 5 or 6 in the last 15 or so games, and he's only been under 2 fantasy points on all of those starts, and under the fantasy points he needs today. So because he needs 21 and a half. I think he can get 25 or so in this one relatively easily, assuming he does draw the start and plays a decent amount of minutes. And so that gives him a lot of potential here. Again, very close to being a core play. You just need to verify that he ends up becoming a starter. Looking at Kyle Anderson from Minnesota, he's another guy in the same price range as Zach Collins that has some utility today. He does get a boost with Towns out, though he definitely has a lower floor. But his ceiling is good for the matchup, and he definitely draws some contrarian opportunity. And then we'll look at Fontesico. I don't know how to say your name very well. But anyhow, he's at $4,200. He's high risk today. He's kind of a boomer bust play, but he's played very well last few games with his minutes being up. He does have that low floor, but his ceiling is in the mid 30s, so he definitely has some potential here. And he even did so against Miami and Orlando, which typically are tougher teams to play well against. So I do like his potential here, especially as his minutes are rising and he's playing more. So obviously he does carry some risk. You can also consider Bradley Beal, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, and Malik Monk in your lineups today, as I think they all have some utility and might get some more boost to some of those guys as we get closer to slate when we get better information about injuries and question marks on the slate. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.